All right. Hey there, and welcome to this episode. This is going to be part two of a series on overcoming intrusive thoughts. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Cotty, and I am a licensed clinical social worker, the founder of Restored Minds, and the creator of the AAA Response. And on this episode, I want to continue our series where we're going to talk about intrusive thoughts. And I want to just talk about the concept of trying to stop intrusive thoughts in this episode. So, also, real quick, if you are listening or watching this and you are enjoying this or getting value from this, we'd really appreciate your support by liking and subscribing, even leaving a comment, as well as even leaving a review on iTunes. All those things would really help our show and help get this to more people with the algorithms that the platforms use. And then if you are struggling with intrusive thoughts or OCD or, really anything on the stress spectrum, over at restoredminds.com, we have several resources to help you. And I also have some resources right down in the notes, where again, you can find a free guide as well as a 2-day workshop to get you started on your journey to recovery. So, on this episode, I want to talk about the idea of stopping intrusive thoughts, right? And one of the things, so if you haven't listened to the first episode of this series, please go back and do so. I'll have a little link down in the notes. But in the episode, I really talked about, the idea of just what are intrusive thoughts. So let's talk about like the most common thing that people do that actually is incorrect that keeps them stuck. And that's the idea of stopping intrusive thoughts. And it seems so intuitive to do this, right? It's like, I don't like these intrusive thoughts, so I want to get rid of them, right? Makes sense. So we engage in several different behaviors, whether it's thought suppression, thought replacement, thought, just fighting with thoughts, arguing, analyzing, ruminating, all that stuff. And the problem is that all those things actually make the thought worse. And man, had I wish someone told me this, when I had first really started in this loop, because there's a really good book on this, just one idea of thought suppression, and it was written by Dr. Daniel Wagner, and I believe the title is White Bears and Other Unwanted Thoughts. So in the series, or in the book, right, Dr. Wagner talks about these experiments that were done where he would have a group of people sit in a room, right? I'm pretty sure he conducted these experiments, but he may have been referencing, I don't know, I read the book a long time ago. But he talks about these experiments. And long and the short is like, to really just summarize this, he would have these people sit in a room and put a timer on the wall and say, look, for the next 15 minutes or 10 minutes or however long the exercise was, you can do anything you want, but don't have the image of a white bear pop into your mind. Okay. Like, that's the whole exercise. And even as you're listening to this right now, try real quick, like, just don't have the thought of a white bear pop in your mind. Right. And it's like, what's the first thing that happens? Right. Boom. So this is hopefully some real insight and some shining of a light onto why your intrusive thoughts are really repeating, if they are, right? Just this one concept alone can be a huge game changer. So anyways, so the timer would go, and then he'd have people, mark down on a piece of paper every time the thought of a white bear popped up. And almost across the board, what they found is the more and more people tried not to think of white bears, the more they had white bears pop into their mind, right? The more these thoughts would just pop up. And then what was interesting about the study, though, was that he found that actually that after the 15 minutes, right, what people experience is they started having more and more thoughts of white bears outside of the study, right? And then even then, people even reported having dreams of white bears. You see, because thought is energy. Okay. And I know the moment you say energy to somebody, a lot of people immediately get turned off, like, oh God, don't listen to this guy. He's too woo-woo. This is weird. This is crazy. It's like, hold on a second. Before you even go down that route, if you're going down it, when you get a PET scan, right? Like from, when we're talking like Western medicine only, right? And Western medicine doesn't even talk about energy, even though they should, they don't. Energy is more in the Eastern philosophies, but in Western medicine, when they scan your brain, they are measuring energy in certain regions of your brain. Okay. Like, so when you see an overactive part, they're like, hey, there's more energy going on in this aspect of the brain, right? Than what would be a normal amount in just an everyday person who's at homeostasis. So energy is real. Okay. It's in your body. Your heart pumps off of energy, right? Electrical impulses are always going through your body. Thought, emotion, right? I always love that phrase when you hear emotion, right? And you hyphenate the E in the motion, energy in motion. That's why you feel it in your body. You can detect an energetic shift in your body. If someone told you some horrible news, your energy would shift immediately. And then if they told you they were kidding, it would shift right back, like that's how quick it can happen. And so that's why when we're talking about different emotional states, usually people will talk about this idea of different frequencies that people are operating at. But anyways, thought is energy. Okay. Thought is a manifestation of usually energy in the body. And when you try to suppress energy, we know that is not a good idea, right? If you think of a tea kettle, right? The water or the heat boils the water turns to steam. Steam is, essentially when steam reaches a certain threshold in a confined area, that energy builds up, right? That pressure builds up. Okay. And when you, and so what did it do? It forces the lid off the tea kettle, otherwise it will just, explode. Same kind of concept here, really, because what a lot of us do is, again, we try to suppress thought, and that does not work. That, like, the number one thing I want you to take away from this episode is thought suppression does not work. And this in fact, what it does is it actually makes it way worse. And so what Dr. Wagner theorized happens is that essentially there's two parts of the brain that begin fighting with each other, right? So one part of the brain, because you're like, don't think of this thought, one part of the brain is going to be scanning for that thought. And then the other part of the brain is going to set off an alarm if that thought is detected, right? The paradox is if you say, don't think of XYZ, you are indirectly creating that thought in your mind. If I told you, don't think of a fire hydrant, you are going to create a fire hydrant in your mind, right? Like, it's just going to do it. It's because you already thought of it. That's the paradox. So don't think of this. And then what happens is, because you thought of a fire hydrant or a white bear or whatever the intrusive thought is, then the alarm system goes off. Oh, we detected it. And then the alarm system starts going off. Oh gosh, we need to get rid of it. And then it's like, don't think of it again. And then it creates it again. And this loop forms. So thought suppression is a very common compulsion or safety behavior, whatever word you like to use. I use safety behaviors because, it's just a behavior you're doing to try to feel safe, right? And it's a mental behavior. Now, what most people don't realize, so this is the whole myth of pure O, is there used to be this thought out there that, pure O OCD, right? Purely obsessional OCD, meaning the person only struggled with obsessions. That is just not true. It's just foolishness, right? Hopefully we've come to the universal agreement that doesn't exist, right? Because in every case I've ever seen, someone struggling with intrusive thoughts, they always are doing behaviors. They're just usually 90 to 95% mental behaviors, such as thought suppression or thought replacement, or, again, anything that's going on in the mind in an attempt to try to control the stream of thought. Thought is not meant to be controlled on that level. And there's also, and I guess we'll probably do this on another segment of this series, but there's this idea of willful thought versus automatic thought. And this distinction is very important. And, maybe I'll go into it, maybe I won't. I go into this more in the Taking Back Control program, right? For those of you that are, have gone through the program, you know what I'm talking about. But it's important to understand that there's a difference between the two. So, really the idea of overcoming intrusive thoughts, the main takeaway of this episode that I want you to really grab is the idea of don't try to stop your thoughts. Don't try to suppress thoughts. It will only make them worse. Okay. And if you are fighting with your thoughts, you will lose 100%. I have never met anyone who has gone into the abyss of fighting intrusive thoughts and won. Like I've never met someone who sat there and was like, I spent 3.5 years fighting with my mind and I finally won. Like it was like the final boss of a game. It's like, doesn't happen. Because no matter how many thoughts you think you can out-analyze and outthink and out-rationalize and suppress, there's 10 more that are going to get created right behind it. And this is why, like, going and doing the right things with intrusive thoughts and OCD and anxiety and engaging in the correct behaviors is so important. And so for the person who asked the question if this is live or pre-recorded, this is live, right? So I do these episodes live, and then obviously they get put up on YouTube as well as the podcast. So if you ever want to join live, again, if you're part of our email list, we send out notifications on that as far as when you can come on live. So this is live, but it also is the recordings will get posted up as well. So just wanted to make sure you knew that. Lastly, again, if you're struggling with this and you're looking for help, we have some links right down in the notes that can get you started. Also at restoredminds.com, we have, again, several things to help you, specifically our Taking Back Control program. We also have an intrusive thoughts workshop, right? That's just 3 hours of talking about, again, the different main themes that people struggle with. So several resources for you. Please take advantage of them. And in the next episode, I think I'm going to go into talking about either beliefs or talking about, really what you should be doing instead when it comes to overcoming intrusive thoughts. So sorry, I got stumbled up there. Thank you guys for hanging out. Wish you guys a great weekend as always. And again, looking forward to continuing this series of intrusive thoughts with you guys. Take care. Thank you so much for watching that video. And so if you're struggling with OCD and anxiety, I just wanted to let you know that we have a free training for you over at Restored Minds, where you can start learning how to use our AAA response to really break out of that loop and ultimately take back control of your life. And all you need to do to access is just click the little link below and you'll be taken to a page where you can register today. Thank you so much.